Hey guys, it's the Pink King here. Welcome back to Jurassic June. Now, if you are new here, go watch my previous video. I explain what this series is and what I will be doing. But if you've already seen it, then you know that today we are going to be looking at The Lost World Jurassic Park and answering a question I've had for a while. Is it underrated? Yeah, so as you probably know, a lot of the Jurassic sequels have been bashed for so many years now, with most of them never reaching the same amount of love the first one did. But surprisingly, there's one that stands out above the rest: The Lost World. This movie has been splitting people's opinions and enjoyment for so long now, with people either saying it's okay or others saying it's quite good, with some saying it's just as good as the first. But this is the movie that, out of all the sequels, is the one that I considered to be the second best compared to the first. Now for me, it's really hard to say whether I like this movie or not. I loved it as a kid, but as I soon grew up, I didn't care about it for a while. I even found it quite forgettable at times. But after rewatching it again, especially considering the first movie, so going back into this movie with the first one fresh in my mind was a very interesting mindset to be in. Just like the first movie, this was based off a book by Michael Crichton. Crichton's sequel to his first book, Jurassic Park, that from what I've seen was made after the first movie. Now I could be wrong here, but he never intended to make a sequel to this book, and it was only after the first movie's success and the encouragement from Spielberg that he actually made a second book. And again, just like the first movie, The Lost World is very different to its book counterpart, with it taking a very different approach, but a similar heading from the book. And that's not the only thing this movie has in common with the first. Yeah, the biggest issue for me here is that on a fundamental level, this movie is very close to the first one, with just a few more added that was already there in the first place. There's now another island with dinosaurs on it. There's another person who's in charge of InGen who wants to bring the dinosaurs and put them on display. There's now two T-Rexes instead of one. There's now a whole pack of raptors instead of two. You can see where I'm going with this. This movie is trying to add more from what the first movie did, but fails to add the most important thing, and that's good characters. Don't get me wrong, I love Ian Malcolm as much as the next guy, but to me at least, he's not a good fit for being the main character. It's like Jack Sparrow. He's technically not the main character, but a part of a larger whole. And it worked so much better when he was a part of that larger whole that when they did put him in the main character role, it just didn't work and it felt off. And it's the same here. Malcolm is simply not as deep of a character as that of Alan Grant. He's not got a clear flaw within himself that he's trying to overcome in order to survive. He's just Ian. Again, and even some of the other characters, they're fine, but again, they're simply not as interesting or compelling as the ones from the first movie, and can come off as cartoons at times rather than actual people, so it's harder to get invested in them and this story. Also, probably the strangest issue I've seen with this movie is its narrative flow. It's all over the place, and has no understanding of what pacing is. Things keep going from one thing to the next. There's no time to digest anything. Take the T-Rex and RV scene. It's such a great scene, but right after it was suddenly thrown back into them meeting with the other survivors. There is no time to process what just happened. It feels jarring. Let's compare. In the first movie, after the T-Rex throws the Jeep off the cliff, we don't suddenly go back into them meeting up with the other survivors. We get a time to really take in what just happened, really digest the moment that just happened and what it affects our characters. Thus we learn more about our characters and it leaves a bigger impact on us, the audience. And of course the ending. I'm sorry, but as cool as the San Diego scene was, it did feel tacked on. Like, the movie already felt like it was coming to an end, and then out of nowhere, we're suddenly thrown into another action scene. It's so bizarre and yet jarring to watch. Now, I know I'm being quite critical here, and rightly so, but I don't want this to come across as me hating this movie, because I actually don't. There's a lot of good stuff in here that you just have to appreciate. Take the dinosaurs. They all feel alive and each portrayed just as beautifully as they did in the first movie. And watching them live on this island was really exciting to see. It was something that felt new and genuine. Even the music was great. I know it's not as good as the original, but there's plenty of very memorable tunes in here and it's very hummable. It's something that feels both familiar and yet new, the perfect blend of what came before with something newer. And it's quite fitting for this new lost world. And it was that music, along with all the dinosaurs, that helped this movie make me feel like I was a kid again, watching it for the first time. But I want to go back to what I asked you before. Is this movie underrated? Honestly, I think I'm gonna have to say no. I know this movie's popular in the fandom, and I enjoy it, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy it, but as a film, it's simply just not as good as a lot of you like to say, but I feel like it has the right amount of love it deserves. Sure, it's not groundbreaking by any mean, but it's not bad either. Yes, it can be stupid at times, but if you're willing to switch off your brains and enjoy it for what it is, you'll definitely enjoy yourself, and will leave a very happy viewer. For me, this movie's a solid 6 out of 10. It's not underrated, but I feel like it's still a lot of fun, that unfortunately it just has too many mistakes for me in order to be fantastic. But, what did you guys think? Do you love this movie or do you hate it? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe right now. My goal is to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and with your help, I could definitely achieve that. So if you enjoyed this video and want to see the next video where I cover Jurassic Park 3, then subscribe. And with that, I'll see you all next time.